Did you have to parent your parents while you were growing up? Maybe even now? That's a big recipe for disaster. Let's talk about that today on Ask a Shrink. Parenting your parents, it's not a good thing. Another way of saying it is being your mother's guidance counselor or your father's guidance counselor. That's not the role you're supposed to be in when you're growing up. You're the kid. You're the one who's supposed to be getting guidance from your parents, helping you navigate life, understanding what feelings are all about, naming a feeling, having a safe place to share feelings. In addition to providing a roof over your head and giving you food and safety and sending you to school, parents are also responsible for the emotional development of their children. So in a toxic family, in a dysfunctional family, these roles can become flipped. And when they're flipped, it causes all kind of emotional trauma to the child trying to grow up that it's being flipped on, because in being flipped, now that child or several children in the family have to now parent their parents because their parents are not functioning well in their adult role, in their parental role. When you think of being a school guidance counselor, for example, they're there in the school as a way to guide the child. They're there to help the child understand what's in their best interest, what they really want. If they're having behavioral problems, they can sit and talk about it, explore the underlying reasons. So the counselor is taking that on, right? They're guiding the child because the child doesn't know they need the guidance. So when it's flipped and a child is trying to do that for their parent, wow, talk about confusing. Because the child naturally is going to probably take on that role willingly because they want to help. They're a little kid and they can tell their mommy or their daddy is coming to them for help. Mommy or daddy is out of control. Maybe the mother is sleeping all day because she's in a chronic depression. Maybe the father is out drinking again all day with his buddies and out of work. So just with those two examples, we can see where a child growing up is going to have to step in, especially if they're the oldest child, but it could apply to any child, and take on the role of the adult and sort of navigate the family through what needs to be done. Talk about a burden, talk about a responsibility that they're not prepared for. It can also happen to other children in forms of emotional incest, where the parent has not dealt with their own adult needs emotionally, and rather than face themselves, work through their issues with a therapist, they decide that all their answers are going to be in taking over emotionally one of their children, having that child be like their little mini husband or mini wife. And then of course that child is going to pay a big price. And then that child will probably become the parent's guidance counselor because they're there to serve the parent, to guide them. So when everything is flip-flop like this, the child in this situation that is either growing up like this currently or has grown up like this and they're looking back, needs to really dig in there and see how that's affected them. How has that impacted their views on relationship, about expressing feelings, about not having to be in control all the time? Because quite often, if you're doing this for your family, if you're a child planning and plotting the way for your family, then you're feeling the need to control things and you're going to bring that into adulthood, which is not going to be helpful. Issues with intimacy, issues with self-worth, self-esteem, and on and on and on, because the proper developmental stages for that child have been thwarted. They have not been able to go through them successfully because they have been there as the guidance counselor for one or both of their parents. So when you're hearing all of your parents' adult problems, you're going to feel like you need to be the parent because they don't seem to get it. They seem out of control. The son or daughter is going to try to come up with answers, but that is not their role. Plus, they're not going to know how to give the answers in the first place, but they're going to just make up something. But because now they're so focused on trying to make everything okay for their parents, they are ignoring this. They are ignoring themselves. They are not getting in touch with their own emotional needs and feelings because they're focused on one of their parents or both. Other terms for this, you may hear parentification, parentified, mini husband or mini wife may apply to any and all of this. Sometimes parents do this by what is coined as the term displacement. Displacement is when you're wanting to avoid your own negative feelings And in this case, it could even be about guilt that they have about the way that they're raising their children. Maybe they're aware on some level that they're not doing a healthy job here. If they want to displace their confusion, they may displace it onto the child in terms of going to the child for advice and guidance. Now, of course, they're confusing the child, but the underlying reason for it all is they don't know what to do with their confusion. Now, the kid or kids hearing this, they don't know what to do with it all. They have no real power, right? They're just kids. Then if there's one particular child that has taken on the role of being the guidance counselor, now the other siblings are probably going to resent that child because why the hell are you telling us what to do? Why are you acting like you're in charge? But the other siblings are not necessarily understanding that the parent is dumping verbally on them, telling them all of their adult problems. The other siblings may not really know this, and so then they end up resenting that child who has had to hear all of this. And the child who has to hear all of this doesn't know what they're doing either. They're just trying to smooth things over because they definitely know things are out of whack at home. And there may be some shame about being in this role because they're thinking like, why am I in this role? Well, I don't know what I'm doing. And so if there's shame, they're not going to talk about it willingly or bring it up or try to process it because it's more like just something, it's just let me just deal with this. Let me just get over it. Let me just hang on until I can move out when I'm 18 years old or something. If that's the mode they're in, then everything is being internalized, and this will definitely affect their adult relationships when they're out on their own. And for the children growing up who tried to parent their parents, chances are as they enter adulthood, they're going to be doing that with all their friends, their boyfriend, their girlfriend, and then be resented for it. And they're not going to know why they're being resented for it because to them it's very natural. This is familiar. This is what I had to do at home. So that's why sometimes it takes a breakup. It takes some friends saying, I don't want to be your friend anymore, for the person, the kid who had to grow up this way, to come into therapy, hopefully, to explore it, and then begin connecting the dots to realize these dynamics that they went through in childhood have contributed to my adult problems nowadays in relationships. So if you grew up having to be one of your parents' guidance counselors, know that that's a huge red flag. Ask yourself, is it impacting your life somehow? If so, how? And for any of you parents out there who may be watching this, who are doing this to one of their children, you need to confront this in yourself and get some professional help about it because you are truly causing emotional trauma to your child, and you need to learn to deal with your adult problems in your own adult way with adult peers, not dump this onto minors who are living in your household, i.e. your children. So I hope this has been helpful. Please let me know what you think about this video in the comments section. Please subscribe to my mental health YouTube channel if you like these kind of videos. And until next week, this is Brad Shore signing off from Ask a Shrink.